very much. We'll crack straight on with Anton for Sky Sports.
Hi, Anton. Nice to see you.
Good to see you, mate.
Welcome to Nottingham. How does it feel to be head coach of Nottingham Forest?
Yeah, excited. Obviously, not really sure when the next opportunity will sort of arise. And, yeah, it happened. And, yeah, really excited. I mean, it's obviously great to be back in the Premier League, but great to be in charge of, a club with such a storied history, who I firmly believe are on their way up. And I think it's a great place for me to be.
It all happened so quickly. Can you give us some insight into the timings, the conversation about how all this came down?
Yeah, quickly is the word. Yeah, it kind of developed sort of over the weekend, but it sort of just all came to a head on the Monday. And, all my staff were all different parts of the world, and we had to make some quick decisions. The president got me in a good moment. I'd just done the school run, and that's a great motivator to get back to work, mate. I think from my perspective, it was, once we got into the discussions on sort of preliminary discussions on the Monday, over the weekend, but on the Monday when it got serious, I kind of didn't take too much for me to realise it's a great opportunity, and it has everything that kind of I look for in a challenge, and I was excited to take it.
So about Nottingham Forest being on the up, obviously they're having their greatest sort of spell of success, and it was under Nuno. How difficult is it going to be to take over from him? Not just because obviously of the success of the team, but also because obviously there's lots made of the clash of styles between you and the previous head coach. Yeah,
look, again, it's the nature of football. You guess you don't really know what circumstance you'll take over. You're absolutely right. I think when you look at the job Nuno did over the last couple of years, and to be fair, Steve Coops before that, because when Coops came to the club, they weren't looking like they were going to be in the Premier League very quickly. So, they've had two excellent managers who have done fantastic work, and, like I said, sometimes you don't know when these things will end. I certainly didn't expect to finish up after winning a trophy either. So that's just the nature of football. In terms of the style question, again, look, it's pretty familiar territory for me. It was similar when I took over at Spurs. They wanted to change kind of the way they played, but it's a little bit different this time, obviously, with me taking over 3 games into the season. It'll be a gradual process. But I think, if you look at the squad and even the first 2 or 3 games, I think Nuno himself was probably transitioning to something a little bit different from what it was. But you know what? Even if I was playing exactly the same, we're all different. We're all different people. We talk differently. We coach differently, even if we're going to play the same style. So it's just a matter of making it as smooth as possible for the players.
Can you talk to us about your relationship with the owner? Because he's been sort of open with his praise previously during the summer. Obviously, you met up at the award ceremony in the summer as well. So just talk to us about how you sort of know Evangelos Marinakis.
Look, I've probably been in his company 3 or 4 times. I don't know him well. We were in Athens because he was presenting me with an award and I wasn't going to turn it down. So, and it was very kind of him, and it meant a lot to me because obviously, I was raised in Australia, but I was born in Greece, and I'm very proud of both nationalities, and a lot of my sort of recognition has come on the other side of the world. So to be recognised by the country I was born in was very humbling, and so yes, I had sort of a brief interaction with him there, and there's a couple of other times. I think one was 2 or 3 years ago when Coops was managing, because we both happened to be in Athens at the same time. But I haven't spent a lot of time with him. But from afar, you just got to admire his ambition and his willingness to take everything on and create something special.
He was open about his ambition. In the statement that sort of confirmed your arrival, he was saying, we want to compete with the best, we want to win trophies. You know where this is going. So how much pressure are you under? How quickly do you think it is before you can get Nottingham Forest winning trophies?
That could have been my quote, mate. We're no different. I mean, I've said it already that that's what I want to do. I want to win trophies. That's what I've done my whole career, and that's what I want to try and do here. And from that point of view, like I said, looking at sort of the opportunity that exists here is that every club wants to be successful for sure, but what I've seen over the last few years is since the president took over the club is that those ambitions are backed up with actions, and it's perfect conditions for me.
Richard, PLP.
What have the last few months been like for you personally? Because you say you don't expect to win a European trophy and then lose your job. And equally, you often hear from managers, it's not necessarily just about taking the next job, but the right job.
Look, it was unusual because it's never happened to me before. I mean, it's the first time I've really been, it is the first time I've been sacked. I mean, when I was with the Australian youth team, my contract finished and I kind of knew it was over, but it was the first time sort of that's happened to me, and the first time I've had an off-season off. I had 4 or 5 weeks with the family, which has never happened before, and fair to say it was as tough for them as it was for me. But through that time, I kind of, like you said, you wonder about the next opportunity. I've never sort of put too much thought in it because every opportunity I've had has sort of come from somewhere where I haven't maybe expected it. What I did know was that I was really keen to again go to a club that will give me that platform to continue sort of the career I've had so far, and that is to continue winning things. That was important to me. Not that they're in a position to do that, but that they have that ambition. And it's like I said, if you asked me at the start of the year, would Nottingham Forest would be a possibility, I would have said to you, no way, because the job that Nuno had done and the trajectory the club was on. But it presented itself, and I said I was happy to take it.
Obviously, you've said that this all came together pretty quickly over the course of the last 7 days. You come to a club that, in terms of the football demands, are in a similar situation to what Tottenham were with European expectations from last season. So, from afar, then, what's your assessment of this squad, and how well equipped do you think it is to be able to handle both domestic and European demands?
Yeah, it is a challenge for sure. We experienced it at Spurs last year, and not just us, but I think all clubs that are in Europe. It's a real challenge with the demands on players these days, and. I really like the squad. I think it's got great sort of balance in terms of, being able to cover most positions for the rotations you need. There's a variance in styles in there that will allow you to play differently because there's no doubt European football is, has different demands on you than the Premier League and the cup competitions as well. And we want to compete on all fronts. So, I've only had sort of 2 days with the players, only one today with the whole squad. But I think there's a good balance there of a squad that I think is ready to compete, but also robust enough to handle what's ahead.
Without divulging any secrets, what have the conversations between you and the players been like? Because obviously, I imagine for a lot of them, they'll have gone away on international duty, and this will have come as a shock to them as well. Yeah,
I think you got to let people process it. I mean, I think it's Tuesday was the first day, I've lost track of days, that I was got out of the club, and I just kind of let the players be and the staff. I mean, it's, because, I'm sure Nuno had close relationships with all of them, and you got to let people process that. I know in the football world we tend to think that, it's that kind of business, you just move on, but they are human beings, and I thought it was really important, to let them sort of, in their own minds, deal with it the best way. But from the first conversation I had with them was that we've got a game Saturday, boys, and nothing's more important than that. Everything else we've got to park, whatever it is that we may or may not be going through. And because the responsibility for me and the players and everyone involved is to make sure that, come Saturday lunchtime, that we are absolutely ready for a big game. And, that's been the conversation. So I haven't tried to sort of expand on that too much. Is what's going to be our best preparation to take on, one of the Premier League's best.
Is it fitting for you personally, given your recent history, that it's Arsenal away first up?
Look, it is what it is. I think our first 4 games are away, so that's why I've got to look at the stadium today. I won't see it for a while. But that's okay. I mean, look, the one thing I do know is that every Premier League fixture is challenging, whether that's against clubs that are challenging for honours or others that are fighting for other things. And but it's a great game. Mikel has got them off to a good start. I think they've strengthened over the summer for sure. They're a stronger team than they were last year, so it'll be a great challenge for us.
Have you had any feedback in terms of player availability, who's available, who won't be this weekend?
Basically, I think we've got a clean bill of health, except for who's just come back. Obviously, he had an issue with the national team. We've sent him for some scans, and we'll get some information this afternoon. But the rest of the boys, like I said, today's the first day I've got my eyes on them, and they're all fine and should be available for the weekend. Shevchenko's the other one, obviously, because he's on loan from Arsenal, it's not available.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Can we stop with photography now, please? Natalie for the BBC.
Hi, Ange. The unity here last year at Forest was fantastic. It was a dream season. How can you create that again and build on it?
Look, I think my experience anyway, I think it's always been here. My first year at Spurs, Coops was still a manager here, and they were going through a tough time, but the supporters were still right behind him and the team. And I think again that was one of the attractions for me. How closely linked this football club is to its community. So if you can sort of harness that, then you can create something special. But that isn't going to happen overnight. They're not going to love me from the first day. That's something I've got to earn. I've got to earn their sort of trust and respect. They'll get behind us for sure because I'm the Nottingham Forest manager, and they always do. But longer term, I've got to earn people's respect and trust as I have everywhere else I've been. And I know if we can tap into that, we can create something really special. I think it's one of those unique football clubs that if you get that sort of momentum, great things can happen.
You talk about being a winner. We know that. We know you're very straight talking, but the Forest fans will want to get to know you. In your own words, who is Ange Postecoglou and what will you bring here to the City ground?
I've never really talked about myself in the third person.
We love that.
Yeah. Look, I guess I think for the most part, what you see is what you get. I'm no different. If you sort of bump into me in the street, I try and be myself. And I'm just very passionate about what I do. Like I said, I love creating things that are lasting. I think every club I've been to, I'd like to think I'll be welcomed back because I think I've left a mark, and that's what I want to do here. But again, all that sort of takes time. I think the one thing that the fans will know with me is that I've set my mind to do something. I'll see it through, and hopefully I can bring some special times to the football club.
In the media, we talk about Ange Ball. You'll be familiar with that. But how would you describe your football, and what will the fans see on the pitch?
Yeah, look, again, I've always got to be careful how I frame these things because for some reason they get set in stone. But I do like my teams to play exciting football, score goals, get fans excited for sure. I'll make no apologies about that. That's just the way I am and the way I want to see my teams play. And we want to dominate the ball. We want to put pressure on the opposition. We want to score goals. But all of it with the end goal of winning football games, because that's what excites me more than anything else. If you win football games, then you can win trophies. And there's no doubt that from my perspective, I see a group of players and the opportunity to build something that I think, not just for Forest fans, but for everyone watching the game, will be good to watch.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Dan for ITV, please.
Hi, a quick question for clarity. You say, well, we know you win a trophy in your second season.
I won a couple in my first as well. Celtic, I won a double in my first year. So
there you go. Going to win one in your first then?
Yeah, well, of course I can, yeah. I mean, I may have to have a second year here, mate. So, yeah.
If you do, there'll be comparisons with Brian Clough here, obviously. How much of an inspiration is he to you, and do you see any similarities?
There will never be any comparison between me and Brian Clough. He's a standalone legend. He's one of these figures that you can't compare to as a manager, as a man. I've often said I'm a student of the game, and growing up on the other side of the world, I was a voracious sort of reader of anything I could, and he's one of the most legendary figures going around. And he did it at a football club where no one expects that kind of thing, and I love that because it means he's a little bit different. I want to be a little bit different. I've tried to be a little bit different. I've just got a different journey to everyone else, pretty much in the Premier League. So, he's a standalone figure, mate. There'll be never any comparison between me and him. But if I can bring similar joy that he brought to this football club and to this city, I'll be a very, very happy man.
And finally, from me, what's your message to the supporters that will be coming to Arsenal to watch your first game?
Look, hopefully, they'll get behind the scene like they always do, and excited about the possibilities of what we can achieve. The club's back in Europe. That's a fantastic incentive for us to really, create something special along with the domestic competitions, and hopefully they see an enthusiasm in the team. Look, the players have been fantastic. It's like I said, they've had to process it, but they also understand that they have a responsibility to this football club to make sure they perform. The last game wasn't great, so you've got to take that into account and say, well, we want to make it amends for that, irrespective of what's happened in between, because we want to make sure that our supporters go home happy.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, mate.
Jacqueline, Channel 7.
Hi, Ange. You'll obviously have a lot of Australian fans that are following you to this new club. Have you considered funding some sort of amnesty program back home so those who bought a Spurs kit can now switch to a Forest one?
Yeah, fair to say, when I first took over Spurs, I didn't know any Aussie Spurs supporters, and then all of a sudden there's thousands of them. So, it's like all my friends. Their allegiances change pretty quickly. Look, like I said, I was very proud to be, I'm proud Greek, but I'm also very proud Australian, and I love the fact that people have followed my journey from back home. And it's tough. Allegiances will be tested, but I'll find out who the true Ange believers are and who are just who's just on the gravy train pretty quick. So yeah.
I had a fan sing "Tie Me Kangaroo Down Postecoglou." Do you think that chant's going to take off?
I'll leave it to the fans. They're pretty creative. As long as it's complimentary, I'll take it.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Hannah from 9.
Hi, Ange. Congratulations. Another Aussie over here. I just wanted to know, how did your Melbourne mates take the news? What did they think?
Yeah, it was funny because over the weekend I was celebrating my 60th night. I arranged ages ago to have 4 of my best mates from Oz. We met on the weekend, and we had this whole thing planned, sort of hangover style. But we were in bed by 10 o'clock, so we realised we're 60 years old. But, there was kind of an inkling that something may happen. And, look, they're super excited. Fair to say they're very invested in me, that they love the Premier League and they love, following whatever teams I kind of manage. So, I think, everyone sort of in my inner circle are pretty excited by it.
You've made history as an Australian, as the first Australian to manage a Premier League team, to have another go. How proud are you of this moment?
Yeah, look, I think, I guess the opportunity presented itself because of the work I've done so far to get here, and it's what I've prided myself on, is that, when I did start in Australia, I've kind of reached this point, not because of anything other than just working hard and being successful, and that's opened doors for me, and I feel pretty humble and blessed to be in a position where I get another opportunity to manage in the greatest league in the world, and at a historic football club. I don't take that for granted, and that's why I want to make sure that I have success here as well.
what would your message be to young Aussies who look up to you and want to be where you are now?
Don't be a manager, for God's sake. No, look, I think there is something in that, and you know, it's not something very easy for me to verbalise, but I think for anyone who does come from Australia, we realise just how far away we are from this world, and I think even to this day, I you know, people, particularly here in the Premier League, think I only started coaching 2 years ago when I took over Spurs. You know, it just doesn't. It seems everything I've done up to that point doesn't really resonate with anyone, but that's okay. You know, we love being the underdog. We love being written off as Aussies. We you know, we're a small country that takes on the world in terms of, particularly in sport, and I kind of like being in that space anyway. And I think for any young person, irrespective of where you are, you know, you can talk about having dreams. I surpassed my dreams probably 20 years ago about what I wanted to do in the game. So to be sitting here where I am now just goes to show you that irrespective of sort of where you grow up or whatever barriers you may have, you know, if you kind of believe in something, it can happen.
Great. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hannah. Max for TalkSport, please.
Hi, Ange. I heard you talking very fondly about Brian Clough there. We had on TalkSport just the other day after your appointment, we had Tony Woodcock on, who was obviously a winner with that 1979 group, and he said he was your neighbour in North London.
I did. I bumped into Tony, yep.
And he was obviously part of that team, which was all about proving people wrong, a provincial team. Nobody knew about them at the time. It feels to me that the club, even to this day, is still trying to prove people wrong. Does that chime with you? And do you feel that you've got a point to prove here at Forest?
Yeah, I think that's a fair reflection. I mean, we had John McGovern at the training ground running around chasing balls today, and you know, I'm going, "What are you doing, John? You're a legend. Don't run around chase balls." But it's there is a little bit of that, I think, but I don't see it as a point to prove. I don't have to prove anything to anyone. You know, I really believe that, you know, like the football club, that you just, you know, you let your kind of actions speak for themselves, and you present yourself, and you kind of understand the responsibility you have both as a manager and the football club has to provide joy to the most important people, and that is the supporters. That's why football clubs exist. They don't exist for any other reason. I know sometimes, especially in the Premier League, we think they do. You know, it's about the money or the exposure or the fame, but it's just about bringing joy to the people who, you know, are the lifeblood of this game. And that's all I care about. I don't care about, you know, I guarantee you I can win things here, and people will still have doubts about me because of who I am, and probably same with Nottingham Forest as well, you know. But that's what I say, that's why I loved, you know, watching the club's recent sort of history, because if you look at clubs that have been promoted in recent years, you know, it's a struggle just to maintain Premier League status, and yet, you know, from when the president took over, he's had this ambition, and you know, he's backed it up, and I'm sure if you asked him or anyone at the club, they're not trying to prove anyone wrong. They've just got this vision in their head about what they want this football club to be, and it's the same with me. I'm not into proving people wrong. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing because it brings joy to people and allows me to live my dreams.
And you said in your interview with the club that was released last night, you said, "I love my teams to attack, score goals. This is sometimes misconstrued as me playing one way." Why do you think people feel that way? And what are they missing?
They're missing everything because they're not watching what I do, you know. And yeah, I do love my teams to attack. I do love my teams to score goals. But the one constant in my career is that everywhere I've been, I've won things. So, and sometimes that's taken, you know, it's all done in a slightly different way. With the principles are all the same. But, you know, if you go back to the start of my career, I've played just about every system there is. I've played 3 at the back, 5 at the back, 3 in midfield, 3 strikers, 2 strikers. Mate, I've done 4-4-2 for a whole season. So, you know, it's not... But I think, you know, it's a challenging world where there's you know, there used to be a melting pot of different ideas and different opinions. There seems to be a melting pot of the same opinion these days sometimes. And it'd be nice if just people just took a step back. And, you know, even if you look at my 2 years at Spurs, I mean, we finished 5th the first year. just missed a Champions League spot. You know, fifth would have got us a Champions League spot in any other year. And we were really aggressive with our football. And, you know, people say, well, it doesn't work. Well, you know, finishing fifth after taking over a team, and we'd lost a generational talent in the meantime. But now last year was a different year for sure, and I had to adjust the way we did things, but it brought us success. But I'm never going to go away from, you know, I want my teams to play football that's exciting and gets people talking, you know. I mean, even for you guys, I'm sure you don't want to see, you know, 20 teams all playing the same way. What's the point? So, you know, from my perspective, I always try and do things a little bit differently.
You spoke about the variance in the squad and how you're excited that team of players can play in lots of different ways. And the owners obviously invested incredibly heavily this summer. Do you feel on paper, compared to what you had at Spurs, we know there were so many injuries all the time, do you feel that on paper you've maybe got more to deal with the rigours of Thursday, Sunday than you did last season?
It kind of depends. Like I said, last year was a bit of a unique season there where, you know, we didn't have a great pre-season and we just weren't prepared. And in the end, ultimately, that cost us. We just didn't prepare well. Now, obviously, I'm coming in 3 games in. So, you know, in terms of the preparation for this season, I do think that when I look at the squad, there's certainly a little bit more experience than there was. You know, we signed some young players at the beginning of the year last year, Spurs, which we had to blood. But I just know the demands of Thursday, Sunday football, particularly when you're playing in Europe, playing away. I think I'm better equipped to handle it as well as a manager and the staff I have. We kind of know, you know, maybe, you know, for the other guys at Nottingham, and they've done a lot of work studying, you know, clubs like ours and sort of Villa last year and to prepare for the season. So they've done all the right things. But me and the coaching staff have actually got the real life experience of what it's like, and I think that'll help us sort of navigate it a bit better.
And just finally, Ange, a lot is made about Evangelos Marinakis in the media. Here in Nottingham, though, he has been the man that has taken the club from the bottom of the Championship to European football. What can you tell, particularly Forest fans who have a lot of respect for him? What's he like?
I don't know, mate. I've only met him a few times, and I just said yes to him. So, look, I think people have sort of, you know, have the kind of existence that he has. It's very hard for us to relate to. But like I said, the one thing about him is that people can't deny is that I think he's taken over this football club with the right intentions. It wasn't a vehicle for people to sort of find out who he is or for him to kind of, you know, thrust himself into the spotlight. He wants to have a team that wins things. You know, it's not easier, but, you know, you can go into London, take one of the big clubs, buy one of the big clubs, and you're already guaranteed success. You know, I love the fact that he's picked up, like I said, a club, a fantastic history, but they're in the Championship, and he's taken them back into Europe. I think there's some real merit there, and I think that tells you enough about the kind of person he is.
Thanks, Max. Any final broadcast questions? Yeah, Jonathan. Press Association.
You spoke about how unusual it was for you to leave Spurs after a real trip. Can you just go into how it actually made you feel in terms of, did you feel it was unjust? Were you disappointed?
Yeah, it wasn't great. I knew it was coming, so I wasn't surprised. So that's the one thing. I knew it was coming a fair way before the final. But, you know, we won it and we had the parade. So it was a great 3 days, and I didn't want it to tarnish that. But after that, I kind of knew it was done. So, yeah, from my perspective, you have a chance to process that. Whether I feel it was unjust, I mean, it's just, you know, other people make those decisions. They make those determinations. That's up to them. You'd have to ask them their reasoning for it. But you know, what I do know is I had 2 years where it was you know, very, very challenging. But you know, I worked with some fantastic people in the football department. The supporters, we put them through some tough times. But you know, there isn't a Spurs supporter that I don't come across now that doesn't want to hug me and take me home for dinner. So I must have done something right. And I think that's ultimately that's what we do it for. I'm very proud of what we achieved there, and you know, it'll always take a special place in my heart. But how it ended, I have, you know, I don't really think about it a lot. And to be fair, you know, I've done it a couple of times myself. I left Celtic, you know, and I'm sure that they were disappointed when I left. I left Yokohama, they were disappointed. So you understand that that's, you know, part of the business we're in. But that's okay. You know, it's allowed me now to move into this, and maybe these things happen for a reason.
Daniel, you've since left Spurs, since you. Can you give a sense of what it was like to work for the chairman? And were you surprised that he's no longer there?
Yeah, look, I don't think this is kind of the forum for me to speak about that, you know, at length. Look, I didn't have a great deal of interaction with Daniel. That's the reality of it. You know, I tend to get on with my daily business and do what I need to do. You know, he was there for a very long time. He invested a hell of a lot in that football club in terms of building it up to where it was. You know, I guess he appointed me, so I've got to be, you know, thankful for that, and hopefully I repaid it with, you know, providing a trophy that they hadn't had for a very long time.